Some candies are so sweet they make you forget the bitterness waiting at the bottom of your tongue. Some smiles make you think everything is fine until you discover they're not yours. Candy, seemingly harmless, yet it can imprison memories, grant wishes, and drag you into places with no way out. If you love chilling, dark, yet captivating stories like these, hit the subscribe button to join us on sleepless nights. Every subscription is a candle lighting up our storytelling journey and our greatest motivation to keep bringing you the sweetest nightmares. Thank you for listening and believing that sometimes the horrifying can be as beautiful as a carefully wrapped candy. Be careful what you put in your mouth. Not all candy is for eating, and not all smiles are your own. Let's begin. At the end of Maple Street, a road where streetlights always flickered as if refusing the presence of light, stood a small candy shop named Sweet Hollow Candy. Its reddish-brown wooden door, a crooked, rotting wooden sign, and dust-laden lace curtains were distinct. But the strangest thing was, the lights inside never went out, not even at 3 a.m. The entire town of Galloway knew about that candy shop, and most mothers told their children the same thing. Don't go there after dark. No one explained, no one questioned, they just stayed away. But Jack was different. Jack Parker, 14 years old, lived with his grandmother after his mother died in a car accident 2 years prior. He was intelligent, quiet, loved reading old books, and was fascinated by antiquated things. To Jack, that candy shop wasn't something to fear. It was a mystery. He often peeked through the window whenever he cycled past. Inside, jars of candy filled with glistening foil-wrapped sweets were lined up like tiny soldiers awaiting orders. And behind the counter, there was always an old woman, long flowing silver hair, wearing a high-necked black dress from the 1920s, never moving, just sitting and watching. Jack had asked his friends, neighbors, and even his grandmother. All reacted the same way, avoiding his gaze and whispering, "That shop, it's not for you." Things became even stranger when Ben, Jack's only close friend, disappeared last week. He was last seen at dusk, walking towards Maple Street, holding a shimmering deep red candy. Town cameras recorded nothing. The police found no traces. But Jack remembered clearly. The candy Ben was holding was the only kind Sweet Hollow had. And tonight, Jack decided, he would enter that shop exactly at 11:59 p.m. Just to know. What made the whole town silent? Exactly at 11:59 p.m., Jack stood before Sweet Hollow. The night sky was heavy as lead, moonless, starless. There was no wind, not a sound. Everything seemed frozen. In his hand was a flashlight and his phone with a recording app ready. The wooden door creaked open, without Jack even touching it. A tiny bell jingled, not with the cheerful sound of other candy shops, but dry and chilling. Inside, the atmosphere was unusual. The lights were on but not warm. The light had a bluish tint, like the illumination in an old operating room. The glistening candy jars stood solemnly on the shelves, but if you look closely, each candy had writing inside, as if etched directly into the sweet. Jack approached the nearest jar. On a red candy, Sophie R., 1987. Another candy, Daniel T., 2003. He stepped back, a twisting sensation beginning in his stomach. He discreetly turned on his camera. The camera started to shake slightly, the image blurry, as if something was trying to block the signal. Then, He heard it, singing. Not lyrical singing, but like a distorted lullaby, echoing from behind the candy counter. Jack moved forward, holding his breath, and the old woman was there, still in her black dress, eyes tightly shut, but her mouth was singing. Her eyes opened, pupils stark white, no irises. "You've come earlier than the others. Good. There are still choices." Jack backed away. "Who are you?" "The keeper of memories, the one who wraps them in sugar. And you are about to choose your flavor." The old woman raised her hand. A jar of candy automatically fell from the shelf, rolled across the floor, and stopped at Jack's feet. On the candy was inscribed, "Jack P., 2023, 12:01 a.m. He flinched, turned to run towards the door, but the door had vanished. The wooden wall was covered in shelves of candy, as if there had never been an exit. Behind him, glass shattered with a clang. Candies spilled out, rolling on the floor like seeds. From each one, tiny humanoid figures sprouted, eyeless, mouthless, with only round heads and high-pitched giggles. They crawled towards Jack, but not with their hands. With knees and elbows, like puppets with twisted joints. "You cannot leave when your name has been chosen," the old woman said, her voice like words dropping onto the cold floor. Jack screamed, sweeping his flashlight across the room. For a moment, the light brushed over a mirror behind the counter, and in it, he saw Ben, crying, but silently. And in Ben's hand was the candy with Jack's name etched on it. Jack understood. Ben had left him behind by giving him the last candy. Jack backed away, his back against the cold candy shelves. The candy children crawled close to the floor, the sound of their knees scraping against the wood like claws on a chalkboard. Inside each deformed body were pieces of old, tattered school uniforms, faded class names, as if time had gnawed away their last memories. "No, no, no, no," Jack mumbled, his eyes darting around for a way out. He swept his flashlight again. This time, the beam hit a curtain behind the counter. And behind that curtain was a basement. Without thinking, Jack dashed past the old woman. She didn't move, only tilted her head, smiling faintly as if she had anticipated this. "Everyone thinks the way down is the way out, but no one ever comes back," her voice echoed after him, like a cold breath from a collar. The stairs were narrow and spiral. With every step, the air grew heavier, and the smell, the scent of burnt sugar and damp human skin clung to every cell. At the bottom, Jack could barely breathe, but what he saw made all other sensations vanish. A large, round room filled with candy jars. But these jars weren't sealed. Each candy was melting, and inside each one was an eye, a real eye, still wet, still moving. He turned away, wanting to vomit. But then, in the center of the room, there was a large mirror, dusty, and in it, he saw Ben again. Ben raised his hand from the other side of the mirror, signaling, "Run," but his lips mouthed 3 words, "It's your turn." From behind Jack, glass shattered again. The candy children had reached the bottom, and behind them was the old woman. But now, she was no longer human. Her shadow stretched out in all 4 directions, towering like a figure made of ash. Her face cracked, and from each crack, a child's voice whispered, pleading for help. "You have tasted the memories of others. Now it's your turn to melt," she said, and the air around him began to transform. Jack felt his hands growing heavy, his vision blurred. He looked down. His fingers were sticky with sugar, soft as wax. He was melting. In a final panic, Jack lunged towards the mirror, hoping it was an exit. But when he touched it, There was only a cold, solid sensation, and the reflective surface was no longer Jack. It was the old woman, in Jack's form, staring directly at him and smiling. Jack woke up in his bed. Cold sweat drenched his shirt. Early morning sunlight streamed through the curtains like belated comfort. "Just a nightmare," he whispered, holding his head. "Just a dream." He jumped up, rushed out of his room. His grandmother was cooking in the kitchen, music playing softly from the old radio. Everything was normal. Too normal. Jack looked around. The house felt strangely familiar, but something was off. He stepped out into the front yard. Maple Street was still quiet, but Sweet Hollow Candy, it was no longer there. In its place was a brick wall covered in vines, as if the shop had never existed. "Grandma," Jack asked, "where's the candy shop at the end of the street?" His grandmother looked at him, frowning. "Are you dreaming again?" "There's no shop there, Jack." He froze. "What about Ben?" "My friend, Ben Redford?" "Which Ben?" his grandmother asked back. "You've never had a friend by that name." Jack returned to his room, his heart pounding. He opened his phone. It was empty. No photos of Ben, no messages, no video from last night. But when he looked at himself in the mirror, his reflection smiled back at him. A small smile, cold, not quite right. And on his desk, a small object lay, a glass candy jar, only a single candy inside, deep red, wrapped in foil. On the small paper attached outside, the shaky handwriting, like that of an old person writing in haste. "Give it to the next one, when it's 11:59. Jack looked at it, his hand trembling slightly. Then he smiled softly, not the smile of a boy, but a smile learned from someone a long time ago. Candy doesn't melt, it just changes who holds it. Monday morning. Snow fell lightly outside the window, dusting the rusty metal railing of the old apartment building next to subway station number 3. Nathan Cole, 27, had just finished washing his face when he heard a soft thump, like someone gently dropping something in front of his door. No footsteps, no doorbell, just a sound subtle enough to pique his curiosity. When he opened the door, he saw it. A small wooden box, about the size of 2 cupped hands, tied with a black velvet ribbon, rested neatly on the faded welcome doormat. No sender's name, no stamp, no trace. Everything was too clean, too silent, as if the box had always been there, just waiting for Nathan to see it. He looked around the hallway. Empty. The camera on the 3rd floor, where he lived, had been broken since last month. The building manager still promised to fix it. Someone could have placed this box down and vanished before he opened the door. But at 7 a.m. in the middle of winter, when most people were still sleeping in, Nathan carried the box inside, placing it on the kitchen table. He took a utility knife and cut the ribbon. The lid clicked open with a soft clack. Inside were 13 handmade candies, wrapped in pale gold foil, each the size of a thumb. A delicate aroma instantly wafted out, a mix of dried flowers and faintly burnt vanilla. Interspersed among the candies were small slips of paper with brown ink that seemed to have faded with time. On each slip was a single word: desire, secret, regret, the price, joy, blood, return. Nathan raised an eyebrow. A game? An allegorical work of art? Or simply a bizarre prank from someone with too much time on their hands? He picked up a candy, trying it. It dissolved slowly. The initial strawberry flavor was subtly sweet, but after a few seconds, a quiet, salty aftertaste spread. Not salt, but like tears. The sensation was vague but haunting, as if the candy was evoking something he didn't want to remember. He couldn't explain why, but throughout that day his mind was unusually clear. He completed an unfinished novel chapter that had been stuck for almost a month. That night, he slept soundly. No dreams, no waking. And the next morning, he received a call reporting that his former boss, who had fired him for a mistake he didn't commit, had died in a car accident at 9:17 p.m. At the same time, he ate the candy. 3 days after the first candy, Nathan still hadn't dared to try the next one. Though his mind constantly offered reasons to deny it, coincidence, stress, paranoia, his heart dared not take another step into that sweet labyrinth. Yet, the box remained on the table, unchanged, no strange smell. But there was something in its gaze, a peculiar feeling as if it was waiting, not passively, but like a salesperson smiling in silence. On the fourth night, Nathan lay awake until almost 2 a.m. Outside the window, snow blanketed the street, and inside the small room, the wooden box glowed faintly under the dim kitchen light. The air was heavy as if a second person was breathing with him. He got up, opened the box. This time, he chose the candy with the slip of paper reading, "Joy." The candy dissolved very quickly, tasting of honey and orange. And for about 30 seconds, Nathan felt as if everything in his life became right. Painful memories receded, negative voices silenced, and he, for the first time in years, smiled. A genuine smile. That night, he dreamed. In the dream, he stood in a field full of candies, and in the distance, silent figures were digging holes with their bare hands. Each person wore a silver mask, and beneath their feet, candies were melting into the earth. When Nathan woke up, his throat was parched. His phone showed 17 missed calls from someone named Tina Rollins, his downstairs neighbor. He remembered helping her carry groceries after her leg surgery. The last message from her read, "Please call me back. I know about that box. Don't eat anymore. Don't." The signal cut off mid-sentence. Nathan rushed downstairs, knocking on Tina's door. No one answered. As he turned to leave, the door creaked open slightly, as if the latch had slipped. He stepped inside. Tina was no longer there. The apartment was cold, but a drawer in the living room table was pulled open, revealing an identical wooden box, but empty. And on the table was a single slip of paper, scrawled as if by a trembling hand. I ate up to the 8th candy, and I saw myself, in the mirror, smiling, but I felt nothing anymore. Nathan returned to his room. In his candy box, only 11 candies remained, and the next candy, prominently displayed as an invitation. Secret. Nathan sat on the living room floor, back against the wall, the candy box in front of him. The light in the room was dim, as if covered by an invisible layer of dust. Outside, the wind howled through the window cracks, bringing cold air and the feeling that the apartment no longer contained just one person. He looked at the candy with the slip of paper reading, "Secret." It no longer seemed like a sweet treat, but like a door. And on the other side, something was waiting. He put the candy in his mouth. This time there was no particular taste, just a cool sensation, like ice melting on his tongue. But as the candy began to reach his throat, images flooded his mind like a torrent. He saw himself, but not in the present, but in memories locked away for years. When he silently hid the fact that his sister was being bullied at school to protect himself from trouble. When he stood silent as he saw his father hitting his mother, just watching from the doorway, hands clenched but doing nothing. When he signed the termination paper for an innocent colleague to curry favor with his former boss, the one who later died on the day he ate the first candy. Each secret appeared like etchings on his face. The things he thought he had buried forever were being exposed vividly. He screamed, throwing the box away. The candies were scattered across the floor, rolling. One rolled directly to his foot, stopping as if with consciousness. On the accompanying slip was a single word, return. At this moment, he understood. Wishes didn't disappear. They were transferred. Each candy was essentially a transaction memory, an emotion, a part of a person exchanged for a short-term outcome. And return was not an optional action. It was an obligation. The light bulb in the room flickered. In the bedroom mirror, Nathan's reflection no longer moved with him. It stood still, slowly forming a distorted smile. Its eyes were black as burnt tar. Then it raised its hand, pointing at him. No one knocked on the door, but he heard footsteps, not from the hallway, from inside. The walls. 3 days later, no one saw Nathan Cole anymore. The third-floor apartment remained locked. The mailbox was full of mail. Neighbors said they had heard banging noises at night a few times, and faint giggles, not like Nathan's, and certainly not human. Police broke the lock at the request of the building manager. Inside, everything was intact. No signs of a struggle, nothing missing. Only one detail made everyone uneasy. The large mirror in the bedroom was covered with thick black tape. When an officer removed the tape, they saw the glass was still clear, but reflected nothing. No people, no objects, just a dim, dark layer, like a window looking into another room. In the middle of the living room was a small wooden box. Opened, inside lay only a single candy, wrapped in pale gold foil, placed neatly like an offering. The accompanying paper had a slightly slanted handwriting, completely different from Nathan's. Red ink, as if written in blood. The next person must eat. No one holds a wish for too long. The box only transfers. It does not forgive. It does not forget. No one dared touch the candy. 3 weeks later, the candy box disappeared from the evidence storage room. No records, no trace. And on a gloomy morning in a different district, 87 miles from Brooklyn, a young woman opened the door to her small apartment and saw a wooden box on her doormat. On top, a brand new slip of paper bore only 3 words. Every wish, one loss. She smiled, picked it up. Memories may fade, but debts do not. And candy always needs the next one to taste it. Every child in the town of Winslow knew about the Happy Sweet Candy Shop, a small cream-colored house with bright red roof tiles like cherries nestled between 2 cold office buildings. Its old sign hung crookedly by rusty chains, but inside it was always brightly lit, always playing children's music, and always had new candy every week. Lily Garner, 11 years old, was one of its regulars. She often stopped by after school with the loose change her mother gave her to buy a sour strawberry candy or a foil-wrapped mint chocolate. It was Lily's favorite part of the day. There was only one strange thing. The shop owner never smiled. He was tall, thin, wore a freshly ironed white shirt, his hair combed back, and always wore black gloves, even in the middle of summer. His eyes were deep, jet black, soulless. He didn't greet, didn't make conversation, only nodded slightly when customers paid. And no one had ever seen him close his eyes or blink. Adults avoided talking about him. When Lily asked her mother, she just said, "You just buy your candy and come straight home. Don't talk to him." But something began to change last week when Lily bought a new candy wrapped in gold foil labeled Smile Pop. She sucked on the candy while doing her homework. The sweetness spread slowly, pleasantly, but not long after. Lily began to laugh, not laughing from joy, but laughing continuously, uncontrollably, for almost 10 minutes, until her cheeks ached. Her mother thought it was a prank, but that night, Lily woke up with a start because she heard laughter echoing from under her bed. The next morning, she found a note tucked into her pencil case. The handwriting was shaky. Smile. He's watching. Since that night of unconscious laughter, Lily Garner began to notice other people laughing too, but not the kind of laughter of sixth graders getting out of school early or of her mother receiving a funny message. These were empty smiles. Her three best friends, Ellie, Jonah, and Thomas, began to change. Not overtly, but Lily could feel it. They still went to school, studied, and still talked, but their eyes were no longer the same. Every time someone laughed, they laughed back immediately, as if controlled by an invisible switch. And strangest of all, the smiles were identical, lips curved at the same angle, cheekbones stretched tight, no teeth showing, no hint of emotion. Lily decided to go back to Happy Sweet again. This time, she went alone in the late afternoon when the sky began to turn gray and other shops were preparing to close. The shop owner still stood behind the counter, like a wax figure in a white shirt. When Lily walked in, he didn't turn around, but the overhead lights automatically switched on, even though it wasn't completely dark yet. She approached the counter, glancing at the colorful candy jars, but she couldn't find the Smile Pop anywhere. "I want to buy the candy from before. The yellow one," Lily said softly. No answer. He just turned, opened a drawer beneath the counter, took out a small tin box, and placed it on the counter. As Lily picked up the candy, her eyes swept across the tabletop, and she noticed something strange. The tabletop had hundreds of tiny smiles scratched into it, all the same kind. She hid the candy in her pocket, not eating it. That night, Lily decided to investigate. She snuck out of the house around midnight, hiding behind the tree in front of the shop. And that's when she saw him. The shop owner was no longer wearing his shirt. He stood in front of a large mirror behind the counter, practicing smiling, but his face didn't move. His mouth opened little by little, as if his muscles were being forced. In the mirror, it wasn't him reflected, but the image of children standing behind him, laughing incessantly and eyeless. Lily almost screamed. She ran home, her heart pounding like a drum. The next morning, Jonah didn't come to school. She asked Ellie and Thomas. They just smiled. That same smile. She opened her backpack. The Smile Pop she had hidden yesterday was gone. Lily didn't go to school the next day. She pretended to have a fever, lying in bed, quietly observing from her bedroom window. From above, she saw Ellie walking alone, the smile still glued to her face as if stuck with adhesive, her head slightly tilted to one side like a dislocated neck. She no longer had any doubts. The Smile Pops were more than just candy. They changed the eaters, turning them into something no longer entirely human. With an old town map from the library, Lily marked the location of the Happy Sweet Shop. The strange thing was that the 1952 map, the time when the Winslow residential area was built, didn't have that candy shop. In its place was the Winslow Experimental Center, a child psychology treatment center. Curious, Lily searched for more documents. A rotten article from 1957 reported the center's closure due to inhumane experiments on children with emotional disorders. There were rumors that they used forced smile therapy by injecting chemicals into facial nerves. The head doctor of the program was named Dr. Felix Marlowe. No one knew what happened to him after the closure, but when Lily found an old photo of the center's staff, she saw him. Deep eyes, not smiling, not blinking, and black gloves. She dropped the newspaper. Everything fit together like the last puzzle piece. Doctor. Marlowe was the shop owner. He had never left town. He had just reopened his experiment with a new name. That night, Lily returned to the shop one last time. Not to ask, but to end it. The door was unlocked. The shop was empty of customers. Only Dr. Marlowe stood waiting behind the counter, as if he knew she would come. "I know the truth," Lily said, her hand clutching the smile pop she had retrieved from Jonah before he disappeared. "Your smile experiment, the children, you can't hide it forever." Marlowe just tilted his head. Not hiding, just waiting for the next one. He stepped aside. Behind the counter was a spiral staircase leading down to the basement. On the first step, an inscription was carved. "Smiling is therapy. A smile is control." And at the bottom of the stairs, laughter echoed up, uneven, inhuman. Lily descended the spiral staircase step by step. The air was chilling like the breath of a crypt. The flickering light from the old overhead bulb cast her shadow long on the walls, distorted and twisted. The deeper she went, the clearer the laughter became. Uneven, joyless, more like metal grinding against stone, screeching, echoing, distorted. A smile without emotion, only needing repetition. At the bottom of the stairs was a large room with metal chairs arranged in a circle. On each chair sat a child, motionless, head gently nodding, eyes wide open, but soulless. All of them were smiling, synchronously, incessantly. On the walls, rows of smiling masks hung. Each was labeled with a name. She saw Jonah, Ellie, Thomas, and an empty chair. In front of it was an unnamed mask. From the shadows behind, Dr. Marlowe emerged, still calm as if this were a normal classroom. "It's time, Lily. You understand. Emotions make people weak, but a smile can be controlled, replicated, programmed." Lily backed away, but the door behind her had vanished. "You are special. You resisted the first candy. I need a new mind, one to maintain order for the other smiles." Lily threw the smile pop onto the ground, stomping on it. The crunching sound echoed like a choked scream. She screamed, a real scream, the only one amidst the fake smiles. Then everything went dark. The next morning, the happy sweet shop opened as usual. A small customer walked in. Behind the counter, a little girl with brown hair stood smiling. A perfect smile, silent, soulless. There's a candy shop at the end of the street that no one dares enter after midnight. A candy box that once made its recipient vanish without a trace. And a shop owner who never blinked. They all have one thing in common: candy. But not the kind you've ever tasted. These are candies that make people change names, lose their minds, or laugh until their facial bones crack. Do you think candy is just about sweetness? Think again. In this video, I will tell you 3 stories. Each one will make you look at candy, the faces of your loved ones, and laughter, with different eyes. Stay until the end, because the 3rd story will make you afraid to step into any candy shop again. And if you enjoy these kinds of chilling tales, please subscribe to the channel. Every subscription is a key that opens another door, where strange things are waiting to be named. Thank you for your curiosity, for your courage. Now, stay where you are. Don't eat anything. Don't smile. Let's begin.